It's always my favorite part of the show. Why would he say that? I go and watch all of these shows. I listen to all these podcasts. I am way too involved in the sports media space so that you don't have to be. I listen to some of these horrible and awful takes and opinions so that I can save you, and then I come in here and give you the breakdown. So let me also start by saying this. Sometimes when I do these, I genuinely like the person. Sometimes when I don't. Sometimes when I do these, I don't like the person. And I'll be honest, this person I like, I just thought this was a really silly mistake to make on the platform that he's currently on. Watch a lot of FS1. Again, you guys know how I feel about Colin. And first things first, even though I disagree with almost everything Nick Wright says, there's something there where it's like, he's a hometown guy. He has gotten to have his success on TV. At the same time, his team has had unprecedented success. And I get it, right? Like, he is living out, to a lot of people, a sports fan's dream. Danny Parkins is now also a part of First Things First. And I talked about this a few months ago when I said First Things First, just the whole sports media landscape, everybody struggling with trying to get ratings numbers, and you're paying all these contracts, you're paying all these TV guys. And they didn't really have a place for Danny Parkins because Breakfast Ball got canceled. They canceled a bunch of shows. The George Taylor show got canceled. I like Danny Parkins, genuinely. And I've listened to him when he does his Chicago show. Great, right? But sometimes I feel like certain takes or opinions, and he's a numbers guy, you should have to say it. Sometimes I wonder if they say it out loud. So he had this thing about Tyreek Hill. And it was the Tyreek Hill injury, and I won't get into we talked about this in our group chat. I won't get into the personal side of Tyreek Hill, but the football player, which I think you can have that conversation. Tyreek Hill is a football player, is one of the best receivers of this century. Nick Wright said his peak is only only Moss and Rice were better. I don't agree with that either. I think there's a handful of guys who are better, including one of the guys we're going to talk about. But Danny put up a graphic, and it was where he was drafted, because Tyreek Hill was drafted in the 5th round, and a lot of that was due to character issues, not so much due to pure talent. But he said, he's the Tom Brady of receivers. Well, that's crazy to start with. But then he showed this graphic, and this is the part that was insane to me, because he said it live, and I want to think that, because I believe Danny Parkins to be a smart person, I think he said it out loud for the first time on live TV and went like, sounds a little weird, doesn't it? Not just the Tom Brady part, but that he went and said Tyreek Hill, for his production and where he was drafted in the 5th round, he was second in all of these stats. It was second in yards, second in touchdowns, second in total catches. And he's like, that's really impressive. He's like, and he's second in all those Let me preface this. I assumed he was going to be second to some all-time, like not an all-time, but a guy who just had a really long career as a late round draft pick receiver, because that would make sense, right? If you were to be some guy who was, a guy who had just played a really long career and gathered a whole bunch of catches, maybe your peak wasn't Tyreek Hill, you would have been first. And my first thought literally was Rod Smith, because Rod Smith was undrafted. He's Denver's all-time leader in receptions and yards and all that. Or I think he's second in yards now to DT. But that was my assumption. And then Danny just went one up on me, and he said he's second in all of these things too. Drum roll, please. Antonio Brown. And immediately a flag went off in my head. And I said, what? Like, it makes sense. Antonio Brown's one of the greatest receivers we've ever seen. Also, kind of similarly in that Tyreek Hill boat, personality and character, a little out there, a little questionable. But I thought, so we're saying Tyreek Hill is the Tom Brady of receivers because he was drafted so late and had all this production. Antonio Brown's literally ahead of him on that list in everything. And Antonio Brown was drafted later than Tyreek Hill. Mistakes are one thing. Like, if you just say something in the spur of the moment, I'm not going to say, oh, see, he messed up. He said the wrong thing. Everybody does that. Anyone in front of a camera who's got a microphone, if you talk long enough, you talk often enough, you will say things in the spur of the moment that are just wrong. I'm not here to blast that. But when you curate a segment, when you create a graphic, when you are realistically in his position, which is trying to hold on to this show because you just moved your whole family out here and you just have this new contract FS1 and your first show went down because the ratings weren't good enough. So they throw you on First Things First. And some of that is your relationship with Nick Wright. That's, you could have done better. You can say, and here's another thing with this. We should just not include Tom Brady in conversations. Tom Brady is such an outlier in the history of professional sports, not just football. Just don't throw him in conversations. Like, it's fine. Go to whoever is the next, most proven late round draft pick ever. Like, use Russell as an example. Russell Wilson's had a great career for where he was drafted in the third round. Use Brock Purdy, who's gotten to a Super Bowl as a last pick in the draft. Don't try to be, this guy's the Tom Brady of this position. And then secondly, if you're doing this research, which you claim to be a guy who's doing his research, and you look at this and it's like, well, he's second ever in yards, he's second ever in catches, he's second ever in this. And it's like, okay, well, who's he first to? Because I'm seeing a lot of seconds, and it's like, oh, well, he's first to Antonio Brown, the guy who literally profiles everything I'm trying to say, but actually better. Later draft pick, better player, also has a ring, has everything that Tyreek Hill is. And yes, Tyreek Hill is unique in terms of watching him play because of how fast he is, maybe the fastest player you've ever seen in pads. But Antonio Brown's just better. It fits the profile even better. Like, just celebrate. At that point, if you want to celebrate Tyreek Hill and what he accomplished on the field, do it without comparison. Just talk about the player that Tyreek Hill was. Just a thought. Again, you say something in the spur of the moment and it's wrong. Okay, fine. You curated a segment. You made graphics. You did research. And Elevate should have told you, and I've done this a bunch. Again, curate a segment, pull up a graphic, do some research just to find out, I guess I'm wrong. Oh, this isn't a great analogy. Oh, this isn't a great idea to use. Oh, this isn't a great comp. Why do shows fail? Why do people stop watching certain people? And I like Danny Parkins. I like Chicago. Bears are a wild card team. I mean, if you want to be a part of one of the coolest, most unique communities, don't forget to like and subscribe.